are talking. Send your messages through 0833037093. You can tweet at PowerFM987 or directly to me at Marara Moabelo. You can give us a call, 0861-987-000. We're moving on to this conversation now. As we always do, on Monday we do...
What do we do, Gonje?
Money, 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 money.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, 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 money.
Dollar, 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 dollar.
Dollar, dollar.
That thing that we don't have. Money, 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 money. How beautiful was the National Day of Prayer, I must add, though. That's amazing. The Motsepa Foundation did absolutely amazing with the National Day of Prayer. But we're not talking about that as yet. We're talking money. Financial inclusion is more than a moral imperative. It is an economic necessity. Without it, South Africans who aspire to start businesses, improve their livelihoods, and uplift their communities remain constrained. Ofentse Tabane, founder of MD and MD of Randcorp Investments, emphasizes that formal financial inclusion does more than broaden access to banking. It unlocks the potential of people and economies alike. Speaking as the keynote at a personal finance event themed Breaking Barriers, Building a Financially Inclusive South Africa, Tabane said that we are not just increasing access to financial services, we are empowering our people to participate fully in the economy. Well, Ofentse Tabane, founder and MD of Randcorp Investments, joins us on the line together with Nicola Mawson, who is a personal finance lead writer. We're talking from exclusion to financial empowerment, unlocking South Africa's potential. Right? How do we do that? Because people are talking about charity, lack of charity. But how do we create a more dynamic and a competitive economy that can serve the people of Mzansi? Ofentse, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm great, blessed.
Thank you so much for coming through to speak to us. We appreciate your time. Nicola, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Brenda. Thank you so very much. And how's it to your listeners?
All good. Thank you so much for also making time to speak to us. Let me start with you, Ofentse, in this regard, right? You as I was speaking about quoting you from Breaking Barriers, Building a Financially Inclusive South Africa. Is it possible? Is it doable? And how do we get that right if we can?
Well, I think the most important thing is to start by creating a more dynamic economy through financial inclusion. There's a few key strategies that we could obviously exploit. That's expanding access to services, increasing availability of banking, savings, credit, insurance products, especially in underserved areas. We need to promote digital payments, support SMEs through, various financial products that, a lot of private sector companies, more flexible and relaxing on credibility with regards to credit checks. I think regulatory support also fosters a supportive policy environment that encourages innovation while protecting consumers. Yeah.
I mean, you've described financial inclusion as both moral and economic necessity. Can you explain why this is so critical for the economy, the South African economy, as they call it, Cyril's economy?
I think with regards to moral necessity, it's about fairness and equality. We need to give everyone, regardless of income or background, the chance to access to financial tools for them to be able to manage their businesses, to manage their everyday lives, to build a future. And with regards to the economic necessity, I guess that fuels growth by unlocking potential. More people saving, investing, and spending boosts for entrepreneurship, creating jobs, and broaden the tax base. In a country like South Africa, as you said, the economy, with its inequalities and challenges, is a powerful tool for transformation.
Nicola, let me come to you then. You also speak about financial inclusion in this regard? I mean, from what we are talking about, can you explain why this, what this means to an average South African?
So, I mean, financial inclusion doesn't mean just having a bank account. It means being able to tap into sort of the formal system, if I can call it that. Because otherwise we're not enabling people to, for example, get loans to buy a home when they may well qualify. I'm not talking about trying to tie people into loans that they can't afford, but certainly ones that they can. And if you want to buy a house or you want to start a business, you've got no paper trail. So you can't go to the bank with any proof that you can actually afford the repayments. And that's a crying shame, really, because we're locking so many people out of growing, really, and that includes entrepreneurs. If I can't borrow money to start up another shop, for example, because I don't have a paper trail, then I can't do that. I can't hire more people. I can't help grow the economy. I mean, Ofentse had that lovely stat that the World Bank says that increasing financial inclusion can boost GDP by up to 6%. And that just goes to show, really.
So what are these barriers that prevent many South Africans from being fully included in the financial system, even if they have bank accounts? Nicola, I'll give you the first bite, and no offense, also you can respond to that after Nicola.
Great, thank you. I think the barriers go beyond sort of. I mean, you may have barriers in other countries, but ours are fairly unique, if I could put it like that, because we've got a lot of people living in rural areas. That's about a third of South Africans, and it's difficult and uneconomically viable for banks, for example, to have branches there. There are systematic challenges that prevent access there. I mean, there's a lot of paperwork involved, and it's basically just difficult to go into a bank and open an account. And even if there is technology available, it's not easy to, log onto your smartphone and open an account if you aren't financially literate in that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And that's assuming that there is broadband or Wi-Fi or whatever coverage.
Ofentse, from your take? Yeah.
Okay.
Go for it.
I totally agree with Nicola. I think geographical access is very limited. Physical banking branches in rural areas, as she had mentioned, make it hard for people to access services. High costs, fees for transactions, an account can be steep, especially for low-income users. Documentation, credibility. I think also low financial literacy limits understanding of financial products. Connectivity issues, income inequality, regulatory changes. Some regulations, while protective, unintentionally excluding formal businesses.
And I mean, you also speak about how financial inclusion, Ofentse, unlocks the potential of people. Can you give examples of how access to financial services empowers individuals and or communities?
Well, I think it's very important to understand that we are living in a country that is greatly innovative, but limited to accessibility to those resources. Unlocking some of the infrastructures that come with the fintech industry. For example, there's so much potential in South Africa's fintech industry. Let's look at township economy, the economy in the townships. There's so much potential in the township economy, but we have a problem with the limited access for that growth. So if we're able to unlock those barriers, we'll be able to actually take this country to a level that it's never been before and transition into a new South Africa economically.
And I mean, you look at Nicola, the role of small business and SMMEs. I mean, what role do they play in building what I can call a financially inclusive South Africa, or is it even their role to play, Nicola?
No, absolutely. What we have seen happen, and total credit to the South African Reserve Bank here, is they've rejigged the national payment system as part of a program to expand financial inclusion to more South Africans. And what that essentially means, there's a lot of technical stuff behind that, and then there's a lot of unexplained stuff about how this will increase inclusion and et cetera, et cetera. But one of the key things they have done is they've opened up the market to allow fintechs, or the national payment system, to allow fintechs and non-banks join the system, and then they can offer solutions that are cheaper to get hold of, that are easier to sign up for, and that sort of thing. And then at the same time, fintechs are offering solutions through card point of sale machines that also function as AI bookkeepers. So, for example, every time you tap your card on one of these machines, in the back end, it keeps a record. So, it shows that Nicola's little corner store has turned over 500,000 Rand in the past month, and her expenses are X, and that sort of thing. And then you can go to the bank with that. It's an actual record. You have a look at what TransUnion's doing. I recently wrote a piece for IT Web on that, and they're analyzing mobile network subscribers' behavior. So if you buy data or airtime, and let's say you spend 200 Rand at the beginning of the month instead of, say, 5 Rand in bits and pieces, they will be able to know whether you're sort of creditworthy or not. So you don't have any bank records, but you're buying data. So they know if you can afford a loan. And it's that sort of thing that we're seeing coming in a lot more of, which is absolutely fantastic. And it's not just, SMEs who are doing this sort of thing. We're seeing big companies starting to get involved as well. If you look at what Altron FinTech has said about the decision to open the national payment system, it allows much smaller companies to get on, but it also means that the bigger companies can build solutions for them. So we've got this entire new supply chain vertical happening here, which will help inclusion. And obviously companies have a profit motive, right? But it's not totally altruistic. But the opportunity is there, so why not go for it?
We are in conversation with Nicola Mawson and Ofentse Tabane. If you want to join in on the conversation, it's 0861 987 000, tweets at PAFM 987, or directly at Marara Moabelo. Send us a voice note, 083 303 7093. We continue the conversation just after this.
From the change room.
It's past 2. This Money Monday segment is brought to you by Sasria. Sasria is an authorized FSP. T's and C's apply. Let's continue our conversation with Ofentse Tabane and Nicola Mawson. Ofentse, just picking up on the issue of SMMEs and small businesses. Now, research suggests that financial inclusion encourages entrepreneurship, right? But now entrepreneurs will tell you that yes, it will encourage that, but how do we deal with it when there is no money, when there is no access to credit? Now, from your experience, how does that access to credit and financial tools affect small businesses and SMMEs?
Thank you for that. Well, it's very important to understand that access to financial capacity and resources for small businesses is a very difficult situation. But the solutions, we've got companies such as my company, whereby we offer financial capacity and resources for small businesses that have purchase orders, etc., with government and JSE-listed institutions. We have, there's so many, information is very important, and that's why financial literacy becomes an aspect that we could not ignore. There's so many companies out there that offer financial solutions, that offer small businesses a chance for them to be able to, to populate their businesses, for them to be able to participate within the economy. So I think information is very important to search for these companies. We specialize specifically in purchase order finance, invoice discounting services, and mezzanine finance. So, yeah, I think we are not that far back with regards to supporting small businesses. However, it's a matter of increasing the capacity and financial resources in order for some of the small businesses that are outside of the scope of work that we provide to be able to be assisted.
What does flexibility in accessing credit especially in township economies, look like? I mean, what are those practical steps, Ofentse, that banks and policymakers can take to make this a reality?
I think some of the private companies, smaller private companies outside of the banking industry, already have flexible, ways of assisting township economy suppliers and vendors. They already have those in place. It's just a matter of looking at other forms of security, ensuring that the business itself yields profit instead of looking at the credibility of the financials of the company. It's relaxing the rules and on gatekeeping, give the guys access to financial resources by not looking at their credibility, but looking at the security within the business. Does the business have potential enough to grow?
Another thing, Nicola, just from your side, and still staying with the issues of financial or of credits, right? How can access to credit and financial services be, if in any way, tailored to support township economies and rural communities? Yeah.
If I take a bit of a step back, I recently reviewed Casinomics Unleashed, which is written by G.G. Alcock, and he writes about how Ofentse Tabane use their personal accounts as business accounts, and they also find it daunting to go and open an account. As soon as there's a huge amount of paperwork involved, people walk away, and I can understand that, because I hate going into the branch and I hate paperwork. So I think certainly the less red tape we have, the easier it is to do something, then the quicker we'll be able to sort of bring more small businesses online and help them expand.
I think also, just to add on that, Nicole, she did mention that the fintech industry is participating and taking a stand in assisting local vendors and suppliers within township economies by offering, loans against specific transactions. They look at the behavior, they look at the number of transactions that these vendors are making through their fintech, point of sales, and then they get to qualify based on the transactions and not based on that, bulk paperwork as the traditional way would be for applying for a loan. So if you have a street vendor or a spaza shop, a spaza that's making on average, 10,000 Rand on a daily basis on average in transactions, they would have a facility equivalent to the basis of the transactions and not to look at the back end of does this person qualify for a loan based on credibility.
The one other thing, Nicola, and you, Ofentse, maybe you can take a bite on it also, is again the issue of adults who missed out on financial education, right? How do we balance that? Because you might have a great idea for a business, but because we don't have that financial background that was never either taught at school or at home or whatever society you come from, then it discourages or at least disadvantages many people. Nicola?
So I think the first thing we need to do is all acknowledge that we can do our bit, whether it's explaining to somebody how a bank account works or introducing people to an educational course. Now, there was a chap on the panel called Gary Kale, and his is just one example, which is worth. And they offer several online educational courses that help people manage their money. And you could do that sort of thing, because then you can come to and appreciate, and we could probably all do with this, that when the money comes in, this is where it goes. And, and understanding that I don't need to have a bank account that offers me a private banker. I can have one that costs R5 a month instead of, 400 Rand a month.
Those private bankers are expensive, Nicola.
Sure. I don't know if they actually do anything,
I like that question. We need to have community workshops, partner with local NGOs, churches in township centers for in-person sessions. We need to leverage influencers. One of the conversations I've had with one of the most prominent artists was, I'm afraid to say his name, he's working on basically a digital bank to assist influencers to be able to qualify for credit based on their streams and views, because they don't qualify in the traditional banks for them to apply for a loan, but their streams and views are making them, they're able to make money from that. So a digital bank, gamifying it, and leveraging, tied to goals, employer programs. There's so many workplaces that can offer financial wellness to, our elders who didn't go to school, but we look at the places that they're all 24/7. They're on their WhatsApp. Some of them are on social media as well. So we need to leverage on the digital industry as well on educating them.
All right, we will
Absolutely.
We'll continue with Nicola Mawson and Ofentse Tabane. We'll take your calls 0861 987 000, voice notes 083303, and messages on X if you want. Questions, comments, anything that you want to add, it's more than welcome at this time. Right now, though, it's 2:30. Let's give you the latest news headlines. Yes, Ntlantla. Right, let's take your calls 0861 987 000, tweets at PowerFM987 or directly at Marara Mwabelo. In conversation with Nicola Mawson, who is a personal finance lead writer and Ofentse Tabane founder and MD of Randcorp Investments. We're talking exclusion and financial empowerment, unlocking South Africa's potential. I wanna now turn our focus, if I may, to both you, Ofentse and Nicola. Now that we've spoken about financial education or lack thereof to people my age and beyond, how do we then fix or rather touch on, and Nicola, you've spoken about this, the importance of financial education in schools?
So absolutely. I've got a teenager who does life orientation. And I don't quite know what they teach them, but it certainly doesn't seem to be practical. You've got this much money in your account. You've got you want to go to the tuck shop, for example. On entrepreneurship. I mean, as a kid, I was very cheeky, and I don't know if Ofentse did something similar. I know he sold things in school, but I would wait for my dad's colleagues to arrive, park their car under a tree, and then go and put up a no parking side with a fine, and I got paid. So I don't know if entrepreneurship is taught there, apart from at the school sort of phase where they want to raise money and then everybody goes home, they get their mom to bake cookies and they go and sell it. They don't teach them to budget. They don't really teach how to save, where you should be saving your money to get the best interest rate, and that sort of thing. They don't bring real business owners in to speak to the kids about what it's like outside. And we're seeing a lot more people, I think, starting their own business. I mean, both Ofentse and I run our own businesses. And that's something I think that is very important, because it looks to me like certainly the days of when the baby boomers sat at their desks until they died and then got a gold watch, those are long gone. But it's now even bypassed that, where people build a career by changing company to company, to people building a career by building their own business. And this is what we need to be teaching our kids. They need to learn stuff like cost, profit, consumer value. I sat with mine and I said, but hang on, how much money did you spend on this? Okay, Mom, I spent X. How much time did you spend on this? I don't know. But that's a cost. And then how much do you think you could sell them for? I don't know. Well, what do other people sell them for? What can the market, what will the market take? What is going on in the market? Because you can't be too high, you can't be too low. And these are the sort of things that young people need to learn.
Ofentse, from your perspective, I mean, what are then those practical steps that can be taken to teach children about budgeting, saving, entrepreneurship?
Just to correct you, the company is Randcorp, not Randcorp. Rand.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I think if we integrate financial literacy into the curriculum from primary school, focusing on, I think, basic practice skills such as budgeting, saving, and understanding interest rates, training the teachers as well. It's important for the teachers to be, well informed, and to provide them with resources and training to make sure that the lessons that they are teaching the kids in school is engaging and relatable. I think basically providing real life simulations. We need to use simulations or apps. We live in a digital area, again, I say, that lets the student manage virtual money, invest in stock markets, and run a mini business online. There's so many factors. I don't know if there are current schools that have implemented digital literacy, if the schools focusing on digital literacy, teaching kids online transactions, understanding loans from primary school. I think that's the basis that we can start on.
You know, the other thing is that then, Nicola, should we then have this? You spoke about LO as a subject in school, because the other thing is that, well, a lot of us don't like talking about something that we don't have, and we don't have the money.
It comes and then it's not there anymore, right?
Yep, the young people call it view once.
Oh, is that what it's called?
Yes, you see it once and it's gone.
Sounds about right. Sorry, I interrupted your question completely.
No, I was saying that on the issue of education. You know, you were speaking about LO. That should it be something that we have in a curriculum, and how do we incorporate this into schools to make sure that young kids learn from an early age?
No, absolutely, and Ofentse is right. We should be learning from primary school already, and I think LO would be, to my mind, the perfect sort of place for it, because it's life orientation. And how are we orientating kids for life if they're not understanding that money comes and then money goes, unless you're jolly careful with it, and even then it comes and goes. And I think the best way to actually get into the curriculum is for parents to, and I'm going to use the word agitate, to basically, in a way, demand it from the teachers, demand it from the principal. I would say demand it from the department, but I don't know how easy they are to get hold of, or how open they are to these sort of suggestions. But certainly, go out there and say, we want this for our kids. And failing that, I don't know, we'd have to maybe bring in some sort of extra curriculum alternative that kids could go to if they want to. But certainly we've got to have it somehow.
There's also, I want to touch, as we begin winding down the conversation, right? I want to talk about things like technology. Ofentse, starting with you, right? How do we incorporate technology? Is it enough to close the financial inclusion gap, or is it a question of policy and education that makes sure that this works?
Well, incorporating technology into financial education in schools, are we still on the school subject?
Either way, both ways, yeah. Both ways,
well,
yeah, in general.
Okay, I think interactive apps, again, virtual simulations, where we stimulate real-life, real-world scenarios, such as running a business or investing in the JSE, mobile learning, online platforms, there's virtual reality experiences, where we can immerse an experience like visiting a bank with utilizing virtual reality, or visiting a personal finance mentor, coding and fintech projects, encouraging students or people or our elders to build simple financial tools or apps as projects, fostering innovation and just practical skills. I think that's it. I think also, if we were to collaborate with fintech, institutions collaborating with fintech companies, that would contribute such, big time in internships and, as we had spoken earlier on, in townships as well.
Your take on that, Nicola? Yeah?
Yeah, just to jump in there. I had a fascinating conversation with a professor at Belgium campus a little while ago, so I can't remember the exact gist of the nitty-gritty, but the gist of it was about gamification. And that's come a very long way from being something that is boring to something that is actually engaging, holds your attention, and it's not just a YouTube video where people sort of blank out, they space out, and then they're paying attention to goodness only knows what. I read books when I've got the TV on. This is actually engaging, and you need to really pay attention and click on the right things, and that's how you learn. It's how HR takes people through their onboarding, for example. And you could certainly do that. And it's almost like, I understand the way they're doing it now is almost like, oh, goodness, now I'm giving away my age. But back in the day, there used to be books where you could, you read a chapter and then you choose an option. Did Tertia go to the lake, or did Tertia turn around? And then based on the option, you flip to whatever page. And there you go, you carry on with that story based on that. So you could have an option for kids you want to invest your money here? Or do you think you should use it to X, Y, Z and build a business, which could be the returns? And you could take them through, as Ofentse was talking about, almost like a real life, but based on technical experience. And that's really next level, I suppose. But it would be great to see something like that.
Yeah, I mean, imagine utilizing virtual reality where students or adults put on, the virtual reality headsets to enter a virtual township marketplace, where they're given a budget in rands to shop for groceries, pay bills, or invest in small businesses utilizing virtual reality. When you walk into a mall and you see those virtual reality simulators, if we could have, say, for example, any bank that would like to, participate in financial inclusion in South Africa, to, have virtual reality simulators sponsored by those banks, to educate and, to participate in the growth of financial inclusion.
Ofentse, what would you say then is your vision for a financially inclusive South Africa, let's say in the next 5 years?
Wow, what is my vision? Look, I think
no pressure, Ofentse.
No pressure, Ofentse.
I think my vision for financial inclusion in South Africa for the next 5 years, no matter where we are, no matter what the income level is just basic access to simple, affordable, and empowering financial tools. We need to empower communities. We need to have a seamless access. We need a collaborative growth. And exactly what you were talking about, the questions you're asking with regards to technology and the schools incorporating financial literacy. So I think that is my vision. It's very simple. Just keep it simple by simplifying access to finance.
Would you say that it's a question, and I think we touched on it, but the role of government and policy in this, is it where we are lacking, Ofentse?
Oh, you put me in a corner now.
I was softening you up, so these are the last questions, so I'm going out with a bang.
I think if we can collaborate, we're able to identify the problems and therefore structure solutions. So yes, there are, earlier on in the conversation, Nicola spoke about red tapes. There are red tapes that we are able to say, these are the red tapes that we have and these are the solutions that we have. So collaboration with the government and, being flexible with regards to the policies, and taking another look at them, I think that is where, that is the outcome that will be constructive.
Nicola, question of policy and government. How do we incorporate that?
So I must admit, the Reserve Bank is actually doing good stuff with opening up the national payment system. It's no longer a traditional system that is sort of limited to the men in suits with cigars and a lack of hair. It's open to fintech, so they can innovate. They can bring their solutions to the table, and that does cut down on the red tape. We have yet to see it play out, so maybe I'm being too optimistic, but I have a feeling it's going to be quite good. And then beyond that, yes, just make it possible for this to happen. That's government's job, really. It's not to get involved in the nitty-gritty things. It's supposed to do regulations that makes it possible for things to happen. Makes it possible for me to start a business, for example. Not by, I don't know, wanting to come check up on me and my business and start running it with me. But, that's the point of government. So let's see if the Saab initiative pays off. And otherwise, I guess we can do a bit more agitating.
So, Ofentse, just as we wrap up, right? What advice would you give to entrepreneurs or everyday South Africans who want to leverage financial inclusion to improve their lives?
Do not be afraid to access information. We have Meta, we've got AI, we've got your ChatGPTs, we've got so many platforms to utilize and exploit for information. There are so many opportunities, so many companies, such as ourselves as well, that provide access to financial resources. So I always say to people, the question that you have, the answer is literally at your fingertips. So utilize those apps, utilize all those resources ask questions, you will find your answers. There are a lot of financial resources that are out there that would like to assist in financial inclusion. Yes.
Ofentse, while we're here, actually, and I think maybe we should have started here, tell me a little bit about what, as Randcorp Investments, how do you assist in that? What do you guys do?
So Randcorp Investments is an investment company in projects. So infrastructure projects, government tenders. We assist with purchase order financing, asset advance. We are able to assist people with money if they've got assets. They want to raise capital against their properties that are unbonded. If you want to raise capital against your car that's fully paid for, you want to start a small business, you don't have access to those funding, but you've got some form of collateral, we're able to assist. So we've got various financial products that are available on www.randcorp.co.za.
All right. Nicola, from your side, what advice would you give, to the same way to those that want to tap into this and try and improve their lives in that regard?
Well, whenever I write for personal finance, I bring it down to what this means for me. So what for me? And one of the pieces of advice that comes through very often is before you do sort of anything is make sure you've got 3 months' salary. Set up an emergency fund. Do this, do that. Which I write in sort of plain and simple language without insulting the reader. However, those readers are at a certain point where they're already financially literate. The input that we're getting for them is beyond how to open a bank account. So we need to go back. We need to take a serious step back and provide that info. And Ofentse is right, it is on the internet. But maybe we need to, maybe we need to put it somewhere altogether so that everybody can access it. And maybe that should be something government should do with the small business department.
Absolutely. Nicola and Ofentse, thank you so much to the both of you. But Nicola, for people that want to find out more about you, what you do, are you on the socials, and how do they get in touch with you?
Sure, hey, Kwena. The best thing to do is to go LinkedIn stalk me.
Okay.
So let me just spell my names because they're a bit complicated. Apparently my surname means son of Matilda, and we're still trying to find Matilda. It's an English surname. So it's Nicola, Nicola, and then Mawson is Maw, S for sugar, On. So it's exactly like Lawson or Dawson, just with an M.
Fantastic. Ofentse, for people that want to find out more about you and more about Randcorp Investments, I got it right. Where do we do that?
Well, on social media, I am Ofentse Tabane at Ofentse Tabane.
Fantastic. Thank you so much to the both of you for coming.
What I forgot to mention is that you do need to go and read Personal Finance, obviously. So it's available every Saturday.
Yes.
No matter where you are in the country, it's contained in one of the independent newspapers. Publication. So if you're in Joburg, it's the Star. And to get to there on the interwebs, you go to iol.co.za/personal-finance.
Fantastic stuff. Thanks so much to the both of you for coming through. I appreciate your time and
thank you for
your insight. Nicola Mawson and Ofentse Tabane. This Money Monday segment was brought to you by Sasria. Sasria is an authorized FSP. T's and C's apply.